There is a specific invisible currency in relationships more valuable than love, more stable than commitment, and more difficult to earn than money. That currency is respect. If you do not establish unshakable boundaries in the initial phases of dating and commitment, you are not building a relationship. You are constructing a cage where you will be treated as the doormat, the provider of last resort, the compliant resource who is loved only as long as he obeys. That woman, the one you are pursuing, the one whose attention you crave, she is already testing you. She is not testing your financial stability yet, or your ability to be a good listener. If you fail these initial tests, if you compromise your foundational standards, your schedule, or your self-respect for her early acceptance, she will immediately and unconsciously categorize you as a low-status man. She will then proceed, without malice, to walk all over you, because female psychology cannot bond successfully with a man she views as weak, pliable, or easily controlled. You must understand this fundamental dynamic, or you will forever find yourself in relationships where you are investing 90% and receiving 10%, always chasing her diminishing attraction and always wondering why she seems perpetually dissatisfied. We are about to walk through the 4 essential boundaries every man must set early in a relationship. Boundaries so critical that their absence guarantees a breakdown of respect and inevitably the end of genuine intimacy or the start of a miserable, one-sided commitment. But before we get to the specifics, we have to establish the psychological foundation, why women test and what they are actually looking for when they do. This message is critical, no matter where you are in the world right now, navigating the complicated landscape of modern dating. Where are men gathering to rebuild their understanding of relationship dynamics and reclaim their rightful position of leadership and respect? The first foundational truth we must accept is that female testing is not an act of malice, cruelty, or conscious sabotage. A woman's biological imperative, the deepest, most fundamental driver of her psychological processes, is to find a partner capable of surviving, protecting, and leading under stress. Her tests are designed to simulate stress and determine if you are structurally sound. She needs to know you are the rock, not the shifting sand. When a man constantly bends, compromises, or sacrifices his own well-being and established standards to gain her temporary approval, he is failing these core tests. This is the moment, that exact split second of compromise, where her attraction begins to leak away. She might consciously enjoy the immediate payoff, the dinner you dropped everything to plan, the sudden availability, the apology you offered even though you weren't wrong. But unconsciously, her respect for you is declining rapidly. She is getting the proof she needed. This man can be manipulated. This man is not the leader. This concept of walking all over you is not just about manipulation. It is about the complete transfer of emotional and logistical control. When she lacks respect, she does not see you as a partner. She sees you as a means to an end, a resource to be managed. She will consistently violate your schedule, insisting on spontaneous plans when you've already stated your boundaries around work or personal time. She will challenge your decisions publicly, undermining your authority in front of friends or family, specifically to see if you will stand up for yourself. A man who fails to set boundaries quickly descends into a state of nice guy syndrome, which is fundamentally a lack of congruence. He is trying to buy affection and approval with compliance, believing that if he is available enough, helpful enough, and loving enough, she will reward him with commitment and desire. The man who constantly gives ground signals that he has no ground worth holding. And a man without boundaries is a man without a self, making him utterly unsuitable as a long-term partner in the eyes of a woman seeking security through strength. If you don't set the boundaries, she is forced, unconsciously, to do it for you. She has to constantly test the limits, push the envelope, and create conflict just to find out where your line is. Men often misinterpret this behavior, thinking, she must be high maintenance, or she's just difficult. No, she is attempting to locate the man inside the compliant shell, and when she fails to find him, she becomes disillusioned, bored, and eventually resentful. The irony is devastating. The men who try the hardest to please women are the ones who ultimately lose their respect the fastest. They confuse investment with value. It is not. It is seen as low-value, desperate behavior. This is what generates attraction and respect simultaneously. When you say, "I value my Saturday mornings for my professional development, so I cannot meet until the afternoon," you are not being mean. You are demonstrating commitment to your mission, which is inherently attractive. When she pushes back and you hold that boundary calmly, you pass the test. You reinforce the fact that she is entering your well-structured life, not becoming the entire structure of it. It determines the entire trajectory of the relationship, deciding who is the leader and who is the follower. A man who fails this check becomes the emotional follower, constantly reacting to her moods, accommodating her demands, and operating from a defensive posture. And remember, women do not respect men who sacrifice their sovereignty. They may love the convenience of it, but they will never respect the man who gives it up. We need to dive deep into the specific mechanisms of these tests. They rarely announce themselves with fanfare. For example, she might purposefully show up 15 minutes late for a date, not because of traffic, but to gauge your reaction. Will you complain, wait patiently, or address the tardiness directly while asserting your expectation for punctuality? That is a failed test. Another test might involve creating drama with her friends or family, and then demanding that you immediately take her side, regardless of the facts. If you blindly comply and take her emotional side without analysis, you show her that your judgment can be clouded by emotion, making you an unreliable leader. Another test is the immediate pressure for excessive emotional vulnerability, pushing you to reveal deep fears or insecurities early on. A high-value man understands that vulnerability must be earned and reciprocated slowly, protecting his inner self until trust is genuinely established. Oversharing early is a sign of needing validation, and neediness is the ultimate killer of respect. They believe they are being generous or patient, but they are actually forfeiting the foundation of respect upon which any healthy long-term relationship must be built. The result is a relationship where she constantly seeks validation from external sources, social media, male attention, because the man she committed to has become too emotionally porous and spineless to provide the secure, grounded masculine energy she subconsciously craves. He is a resource, not a pillar. This is why establishing those 4 critical boundaries early is not optional. They are the non-negotiables that communicate, without yelling or demanding, "I am a high-value man, and this is the standard required to access my partnership." By setting these boundaries, you are not pushing her away. You are actually making yourself more attractive because you are providing the stability, the structure, and the challenge that her psychology requires to maintain long-term attraction and respect. These boundaries are about protecting your mission, your time, your emotional energy, and your self-identity from erosion. They are the keys to avoiding the resentment that poisons relationships where the man felt obligated to shrink himself to fit her expectations. But first, you must internalize the lesson of part 1. Your primary responsibility in the beginning of any relationship is not to make her happy. It is to establish your unshakable self-respect and maintain your personal sovereignty. Everything else flows from that foundation. Fail here, and you will spend the rest of the relationship fighting a losing battle against the erosion of her attraction. If this conversation resonated with you, if you recognize the pattern of failing these initial tests, or if you are ready to permanently change the dynamic of your future relationships, I want you to make a powerful declaration right now. You are no longer willing to be a relationship follower. You are committed to holding your standard. This declaration connects you to a community of men who are also serious about self-improvement and emotional integrity. Hit that like button immediately to affirm that you prioritize respect over easy compliance and that you value truth over comfortable illusions. And trust me, you are going to want to be here for the next segment. We move beyond the psychology and directly into the actionable steps. Do not miss it. If you let her bypass your boundaries in the first 90 days, understand this: you didn't win her affection. Most men think boundaries are about establishing arbitrary rules. They are wrong. You are about to learn the critical lines you must draw in the sand, early and non-negotiably, or she will leverage your weakness into control, eventually destroying your masculine frame and extinguishing her own attraction to you. I am talking about the critical relationship window, the dating phase, where female psychology is actively running tests, evaluating your frame, and determining whether you are the leader she can submit to or the liability she can walk all over. Fail these tests and you lose her respect, even if she stays out of convenience. Succeed, and you establish a foundation of unwavering respect that lasts forever, because you have demonstrated through action, not just words, that your life has structure and consequence. This is the operational manual for relationship leadership, derived from thousands of hours of observation. Before we dive into the specific boundaries that must be hardened immediately, let me know right now where you are taking in this critical information. Now, let us begin the deep psychological excavation of the first two non-negotiable boundaries. The moment a man enters a relationship, he must understand that he is introducing a new element into his pre-existing universe. The woman must fit into the framework of his life. His life must not be dismantled and rebuilt around her emotional availability. This is the first and most fundamental boundary, and it is tested relentlessly and subtly from the very beginning. Does she displace your career goals? Does she supersede your existing commitments to friends or fitness? If you allow her to displace your established priorities, you are signaling weakness and lack of frame. You are telling her that your mission is optional, and a man without a non-negotiable mission is, in her primal estimation, a low-value risk, regardless of his current income. Let's dissect the practical manifestations of this test. First, the immediate availability test. This often appears as low-effort communication demanding immediate response, or the expectation that you drop whatever you are doing to discuss a trivial annoyance she is experiencing. If you instantly abandon your focus to cater to her minor demands, you have failed the test. The correct response is establishing delayed and structured communication patterns. She must learn that your focus is respected and protected.
If you regularly cancel your own commitments, whether it is your gym session, your scheduled work time, or time with your male friends, to accommodate her spontaneous request, you are communicating that your schedule is flexible and thus dispensable.
A man of high value has a structured calendar. If she wants time with you, she must request it in advance, demonstrating that she respects the effort and planning you put into your life. Value is always associated with scarcity and high demand. If you are always available, you are perceived as being in low demand. She calls you during work hours, not for an emergency, but because she is bored or needs validation. If you allow her to consistently break your flow state, especially concerning your livelihood, you are prioritizing her immediate comfort over your shared long-term future and your success. The subtle psychological damage here is that she learns that she is the manager of your energy, rather than an appreciative partner who supports your masculine effort. The enforcement of this boundary is simple and firm. I cannot take personal calls during work hours. No elaborate explanation required. The profound consequence of failing this first boundary is that you regress from a purposeful man into an anxious beta provider whose entire life revolves around managing her mood. Remember, women are biologically wired to attach to men who demonstrate leadership and the ability to maintain structure under pressure. When you sacrifice your structure for her comfort, you eliminate the very characteristic that makes you worthy of her respect and attachment. This boundary setting is not about being cruel. It is about self-preservation and protecting the framework that allows you to provide value to yourself and eventually to the relationship. You are communicating that you are a resource, but that resource is finite and structured, not infinite and on demand. Conflict is inevitable in any human relationship, but how conflict is managed is the litmus test for maturity, accountability, and the long-term viability of the partnership. Female psychology, especially when confronted with accountability or uncomfortable truths, is highly prone to deploying specific tactics designed to shift the focus from the core issue, her action, to the reaction, your emotional state or defense. These tactics are designed to bypass rational discussion and re-establish her dominance in the emotional landscape. If you tolerate these tactics, you teach her that emotional chaos is a successful strategy for avoiding responsibility. First, weaponize tears and manufactured victimhood. When she is caught in a mistake, or when you attempt to hold her accountable for a hurtful behavior, she may instantly resort to crying, not out of genuine sadness or regret, but as a defense mechanism to shut down the conversation. The psychological objective is to instantly shift the emotional burden onto you. If you see her tears, your sympathetic biology triggers, and suddenly you are apologizing for making her cry, effectively forgetting the original issue that caused the conflict. If the tears immediately follow accountability, you must hold your frame. The boundary is enforced by stating calmly, "I see you are upset, but we are not discussing my point until you can articulate your perspective without emotional escalation." You are requiring accountability and emotional control as prerequisites for communication. Second, the silent treatment and emotional withdrawal. This is a passive-aggressive manipulation designed to force you to chase her and beg for reconciliation, thus accepting blame by default. This is a power play disguised as distance. The enforcement boundary is simple: refuse to chase. You do not send 20 follow-up texts. You do not plead. The boundary is communicated when the silent treatment begins. I respect your need for space, but I do not negotiate through silence. When you are ready to discuss this like an adult, I am here. You demonstrate that her withdrawal only isolates her, not you. Third, circular arguments and gaslighting. This tactic involves constantly changing the subject, bringing up unrelated historical grievances, or outright denying reality, gaslighting, to ensure the conflict never reaches a solution where she has to take responsibility. The objective is exhaustion. She wants you to be so weary of the fight that you simply concede to restore peace. You must refuse to allow the conversation to stray. When she introduces an irrelevant topic from 6 months ago, you stop her immediately. We are discussing X. Until we resolve X, we will not move on. If she gaslights you, I never said that. You are too sensitive. You state the objective reality and insist on empirical evidence or stop the conversation. We both know what was said. We will talk when you are ready to be honest about the facts.
You become perpetually afraid of her emotional state, leading you to walk on eggshells, censor your legitimate needs, and constantly apologize for manufactured offenses.
This fear kills your masculine vitality, and the subsequent loss of self-respect guarantees that her initial attraction evaporates, leaving behind a deep-seated resentment that poisons every interaction. A woman who respects you will engage in productive, solution-oriented conflict. A woman who attempts to walk all over you will use emotional escalation and manipulation to maintain control. We have established that the core foundation of a man's value rests on his mission, boundary 1, and his emotional integrity during conflict, boundary 2. These are the pillars that support your frame. Remember, a man who is consistently tested and always fails those tests is a man whose internal reality has been externalized and placed under her command. This is not partnership. This is subservience. The level of detail required to protect yourself is exhaustive because the tactics used against you are subtle and chronic. You must recognize that the biggest mistake men make is treating a relationship as a negotiation where compromise is always the goal. It is the definition of what is permissible in your presence. When you define your boundaries clearly and enforce them without wavering, you are giving her the gift of structure and the safety that comes with knowing her partner is a leader, not a follower of her emotional whims. Do not confuse temporary peace with genuine respect. Giving in to manipulation provides temporary peace, but it guarantees long-term contempt. The sheer volume of men who compromise their mission and their emotional integrity in the desperate pursuit of female validation is staggering. We are here to create the exception, the man who understands that his internal world must remain intact, regardless of external pressure. Your defense must be absolute. The moment you allow a crack in these first 2 boundaries, she will exploit it and widen the fissure until your entire frame collapses. We have decoded the foundation of masculine integrity in a relationship. Understanding these 2 boundaries alone gives you an enormous advantage, but the psychological trap is deep. We are building a community of men who refuse to apologize for setting healthy standards. To show the world that self-respect is non-negotiable, I want you to drop a single phrase in the comments right now. This affirms your commitment to reality. Now, ensure you lock in the knowledge we are dropping here. Hit that subscribe button. We are just getting started. The next 2 boundaries are the ones that save your financial future and your relationship market value from erosion. I will see you in part 3. This is the final conversation we need to have. We have covered the critical lines you must draw regarding her respect for your time, your external validation, and the pace of commitment. But there is one final non-negotiable boundary that underpins all the others, and failing to establish this one early guarantees her complete takeover of your life, leading to the utter loss of her respect. Before we dive into that final defining boundary, I want to know where you are absorbing this reality check. Tell me the city you are watching from right now. The final definitive boundary you must set early and defend ruthlessly is the boundary around your life mission and purpose. This is not a boundary about simple things like cleaning the kitchen or seeing your friends. A man without a mission is simply raw material waiting to be sculpted by the demands of others, and in a relationship, that other will always be the woman, seeking to optimize your resources for her comfort and security, often at the expense of your fulfillment. Understand this deeply. For a woman to respect you, she must perceive you as a man who is chosen by something greater than her. She needs to know that your life existed, vibrantly, purposefully, successfully, before she arrived, and that it will continue to exist in that trajectory, even if she leaves. When you begin dating, she will instinctively test this boundary. These tests are not malicious. They are psychological filters designed by evolution. The tests will manifest in subtle yet devastating ways. She will criticize the time you spend on your business or career, framing it as abandonment of her. She will attempt to shift deadlines, demand spontaneous trips that interrupt your workflow, or manufacture crises when you are focused on an important task. If you fail this test, if you consistently drop your mission, abandon your disciplined routines, or sacrifice your long-term goals to placate her temporary desire for attention or validation, you communicate a single, dangerous message. My purpose is negotiable. Your emotional comfort is my primary purpose. The moment you declare her comfort and attention as your mission, you cease to be a respected partner and instantly become a resource provider whose existence is solely justified by his utility to her life. And women cannot be genuinely attracted to or respectful of a man whose sole purpose is to serve her. She may use you, she may settle for you, but she will never respect you. You are not asking for permission to work late. You are informing her that you are working late because success requires it. You are not justifying why you need Saturday mornings for the gym or for focused study. You are simply integrating those activities into your life structure and expecting her to respect the structure of the man she chose. The consequence of failing this boundary is comprehensive control. If she successfully breaches the mission boundary, she gains control over your time. Control over your energy means control over your resources. And control over your resources means she has full reign to restructure your life to serve her without consequence. Think back to the woman who suddenly wants commitment in her late 30s, the "I'm ready now" phase. This woman has a history of prioritizing excitement and attention over stability and structure. But the instant she feels secure, the comparison disease kicks in. She resents settling for a stable provider and simultaneously resents the provider for being less exciting than the men of her past. If your purpose is strong, she views herself as joining something powerful. If your purpose is weak, she views herself as merely inheriting a slightly improved lifestyle, and she will spend the rest of the relationship testing and criticizing that lifestyle, demanding constant upgrades and concessions until you are unrecognizable to yourself. The 4 boundaries we have discussed are interlocking and form a defense mechanism for your self-worth. 1. 2. The boundary against external validation. Her attraction to you must be based on your internal character and achievements, not your reaction to her attention-seeking behavior, like social media performance or maintaining male orbiters. You do not compete for her, she joins your reality. 3. Commitment is earned through demonstrated behavior over time, not coerced through pressure, timelines, or biological panic. 4. She is a value add, not the core value. When a man fails to set these boundaries early, the pattern of erosion begins. She pushes back on your gym time. You skip it to appease her. You distance yourself from him. She demands clarity on commitment 2 months in. She demands you prioritize a minor inconvenience over your work deadline. You cave. You are not building harmony. You are demonstrating weakness. By the time the 4th boundary, your mission, is breached, she no longer sees a partner. She sees a trainable resource. This is the psychological reality of female hypergamy meeting modern instability. When women are told they can have it all and wait until their window closes, the resulting panic drives them to seek stable resources desperately. You become the means to an end. If you allow yourself to be the means to an end, you strip away the very qualities, purpose, discipline, self-direction, that initially made you an attractive solution to her problem. The result is a cycle of contempt and dissatisfaction that manifests as dead bedroom syndrome, constant criticism, and eventual divorce, where you lose resources while she moves on, often returning to the type of exciting, non-committal man she discarded years earlier. The only effective defense is early, firm, and respectful boundary setting. Boundaries are not about controlling her. They are about defining yourself. This is not a game you can afford to lose. The stakes are your financial future, your emotional peace, and your legacy. You must protect your path. You must choose to become the kind of man who defines his own reality. If she cannot support that vision, if she constantly attempts to subvert your focus, or if she views your mission as an obstacle to her comfort, then she is not a partner, she is a saboteur. And a saboteur has no place in the architecture of your life. Now, I am going to give you a single phrase, a concise declaration that embodies this core commitment to mission and self-respect, a phrase that you internalize and live by. I want you to join the ranks of men who understand this reality. This phrase is the definitive statement that you refuse to be walked over. Suggest your code now, and let us solidify this shift in understanding. We deliver the painful truth because the pain of truth is temporary, while the pain of ignorance in a long-term relationship is absolute and permanent. Subscribe to this channel right now. Hit the like button and affirm your commitment to pattern recognition and self-improvement. We are just beginning to peel back the layers of uncomfortable reality that protect your future. You will learn the exact counters that establish your dominance and respect in less than 10 seconds. You need to know these scripts to survive, so make sure you are subscribed and ready for the next level of clarity.